we wanted the scale to be substantial. I drive around and I look at timber frame homes that are built, and I see that generally that is not the case, and I think that that comes from fear. They would rather go smaller than too big. And to me, it's important to trust the people who really know, and that is Aero Timber Frame, that's their design team, that's all of that whole group, that the scale is going to be proportionate.
Hello there, my timber enthusiast friends. Just how many decisions does it take to bring a timber frame home from visualization to design to the actual building? I can assure you that is in the thousands. Today I'm going to invite Jim and Tilly Hunter to walk through their home, share their highlights, kind of some of the things they maybe had challenges with, some things that were fun. And the takeaway I want you to leave with is fun, challenging journey. It's worthwhile if it's challenging. Keep it fun. Now you may, in your process, hit what's called decision fatigue. And it's a real thing, but it's not insurmountable, and it's really worth it. So to kick things off here, I got two memories I want to share with you. The first one is the day that Jim and Tilly came down to our shop during the crafting of their timbers. He wanted to get some hands-on, make some sawdust, use a chisel, craft a joint. And so I remember he got set up in a corner, David set him up and he worked on the joint. And he'll show you that joint as we move through this walkthrough. The other memory I have is standing pretty much about where I'm at. It's a grassy field. Jim and Tilly have some nice property. They have children that live nearby, past their grandkids, and they had this vision long before they talked to us. But then we were out here and we all worked together. It was a great experience. And I did notice between all the questions of orientation, the sunroom, I know that was important to Tilly, different things were all kind of thrown out in a messy heap. Questions were asked, and I was really impressed with how much thought Jim and Tilly had put into visualization up to that point. We're gonna bring them on here. You'll hear it from them, their own experiences, their highlights. And just remember to smash the like button, subscribe, and that really helps us move forward together.
The whole idea behind the project here to begin with on site was to develop a property that was generational in nature. So we wanted our kids and our grandkids and even our parents to be able to be out here all together in close proximity. And we wanted also to be able to pass this home down to the next generation and to continue to develop the property. The overall style that we were looking for in the home was kind of a craftsman style. We wanted it to be somewhat rustic in nature. We wanted to be warm. We wanted to be inviting. We were not after a modern look, and really we got exactly what we wanted. So we're going to go inside now. So here we have our front door here. This is a 9-foot tall by 42 inch, a solid walnut door. And I did take quite a bit of ridicule for this door. When it was brought out, the scale of it seemed, as it was leaning against the wall in here, seemed massive. It seemed like it was gonna be totally out of place. And so I was mocked, I was criticized in a fun way, but nevertheless, I took a lot of grief over it. And then when the door got put in place, it was like total and complete satisfaction.
Yeah, I'm probably the main one that ridiculed him on the scale of things. I had a hard time imagining and visualizing, and things always seemed too big to me at first, but I do like it.
So in terms of the scale of the home, one thing that some people would say I have a problem with in my life is going way overboard. Bigger for me is always better, and that isn't necessarily so with Tilly or the rest of my family for that matter. the scale to be substantial. Even though this isn't a huge timber frame house, comparatively speaking, it's including the apartment above the garage, it's about 5,000 square feet. So in timber frame terms, it's not a huge house, but you shouldn't be afraid to trust the design team to properly scale. I get people who want to come out who have timber frame homes, who want to come and see my timber frame home, our timber frame home. Especially the guys, when they'll come out, they love it, and they decide that they're not going to bring their wives because they walk away somewhat disappointed, in their own home because the scale doesn't end up being quite right. So that, to me, is the most important thing that Aero Timber Frame, one of the most important things that Aero Timber Frame did for us is they gave us the confidence to scale properly.
Well, they did such a good job of working with us, each of our visions for things. And I admit the grand largeness was a little bit of a problem for me. I was kind of embarrassed. Friends of mine are like in our age category, like, oh, you're downsizing when I said we're building, and it's like, well, not exactly. I am happy with how it turned out, but that was hard for me, the scale, being able to visualize what it would look like. Like, for example, the light fixture here, we had to make a mock thing out the size and put it up there to see what size we really needed. It's just very hard to imagine how things are going to look in this space.
So we have a couple of interesting things in this space. Number one, in front of us here is a large bookshelf with a ladder, a sliding ladder. We hadn't really even considered that in our original plan. That wasn't one of the things that was even on the checklist. And when we saw the first rendition of the plan, look, there it was. And as we thought about it, we thought, well, shoot, that's really cool.
Right, complete with the ladder in the drawing. And we just had to have it after that.
I mean, it was like in the conversations that we had with Aero, in the design phase of things, I guess that kind of came out we love books, we love all of that stuff. And then lo and behold, this shows up. It was something that wasn't even on the checklist. It's an eye catcher. It's very nice to have. And then in terms of the entryway, here we have up above, we have the chandelier that Tilly was talking about. My idea behind the chandelier was that I wanted to be able to raise and lower it without, somehow, some way to be able to clean it and change bulbs and all that sort of thing. So we got an old block and tackle. It's 100 years old. We put it up above that, and then you see this cord coming down here, this hemp line. The cord is actually in that line, and it plugs into the wall below the upper open area. And so we can just pull down on that cord and release it and drop it down. We had to do some interesting things. You wanted everything to be square up there. We had to hold things in place. The block and tackle all works, everything works, but you want the cord to be parallel with the timber frames. And so you had to weld those hooks in place so they wouldn't move, so that they would just lower and raise without any effort, and they would still stay square. So it took a lot of thought. You talk about the thousands of hours of decisions that you had to make. Well, just on this thing right here, there was probably 500 decisions that you had to make just on this little thing right here. So, but it's turned out it was a very exciting component for us. And I think I really am happy with the way it turned out. So right here, of course, we have the entryway, the bookshelf here. To our right, we have the sunroom, which is my wife's favorite room in the house. And she's quickly turning that into a jungle area, which is great. It's her fortress of solitude. It's her great area. And then as we come up here to the stairs, we have a set of 3 stairs here, and we go into a nook area. We go into a little, what is this called?
There's a pantry.
A pantry, that's the word I'm looking for. We have a pantry area.
You should let me talk about that.
And the kitchen area, then behind that. And then straight ahead is the living room area. And as you can see, looking that way, when we had first started this whole process, we didn't have any beams in there on the ceiling. And we wanted the look from the entryway of beam, 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 beam all the way through. And so Bert and I worked together on this. This was post-design to get the look that we wanted in there. And originally, I need to say this, in the design portion of it, one of the big changes that I was after on the first design that came back was I thought that I wanted a tall ceiling in the living room. And Bert convinced me that that was not a good idea, that proportionately it wouldn't look right. So again, I trusted him on that. He's the guy with all the experience, and it really worked out for the best. And this look from the entryway through the living room is really exactly what we wanted it to be. As far as making decisions, Bert talked about it already, literally thousands of decisions. And I guess I would say that that's not correct. There aren't thousands of decisions. There are tens of thousands of decisions. There are innumerable decisions. Decision fatigue can kind of set in. You can feel beleaguered. My goal through this whole process, because I deal in my regular job a lot with the building industry and people building homes and all of that sort of thing. And my goal, above all else, was to enjoy the process, to not let tension come in, to not let doubt and a lack of trust come in. Hire the people that you trust, and trust the people that you hire, that they have integrity, that they have your best interest at heart all the way along in the process. And so that was my goal, was to not get stressed out by things that come along and decisions that you have to make, to enjoy the process, to be at peace in the process. This is the rest of your life. You want it to be a good memory.
And it's a fun project to do together. Mm-hmm. Even though there are a lot of decisions, it did work out, thank God, that the things that were really a big deal to him, it wasn't that big a deal to me. And the things that I really cared about, he was fine letting me decide. I really enjoyed choosing the light fixtures. Some of the things that were hard decisions, like the color of the beams, the stain. I remember, I don't think the foundation was even poured yet, and we had to decide on the color of the stain for the beams, and I felt like we didn't have any idea what we were doing. But I'm happy with the color, especially with how it works with the stone. I feel like the stone that throughout the house and outside really helps pull the colors together, gives us kind of the warm and cool colors that we can work with, and that's been something that I don't think we actually knew we were doing that, but it worked out, thankfully.
A lot happens by accident, and one of the first things that we had to do was pick out stone. And my goodness, there are so many choices. And of course, unbeknownst to us, the stone that we settled on was one of the more expensive stones. We didn't realize that till we were already in the process, but that's fine. It's what we really wanted.
The mason was here so long. I told him he was family now. He should have just
He was here for over a year. But the color of the stone, we fell into that by accident. We happened to like the stone, and we started to get it up, and we realized, hey, this gives us a lot of options that we didn't think that we had, as opposed to using a monochromatic stone or whatever the case may be. It really functioned well for us. So Tilly, she would deal with light fixtures. She would deal with plumbing fixtures, all of that kind of stuff. Paint colors. I didn't care about any of that. I dealt, though, with the scope of things, the size of things, how big to make things. I dealt with the siding. I dealt with where to put stone and where to put siding, and then what kind of siding to put up. Those were all towards the end of the project decisions that we ended up splitting up, just because it can otherwise become overwhelming. And if it's not something that you care about, but your wife cares about, you still need to show, in my view, a little interest in it, right? But you need to let her make the primary decision, and then you just provide input. And vice versa, when she comes back my way with decisions that I'm making, you still need to communicate back and forth.
I think that decision fatigue has really come into place now with decor and things on the walls. We're having a hard time continuing with that just because we're done.
Yeah. The problem that I have with the kitchen is there is so much cabinetry, which is actually a good thing. But then remembering I'm still not locked into where things are. So if she's not around, she's got it all locked in. But if she's not around, then I'm just pulling drawers
I
open
refuse
all
to put
over.
labels on the drawers, though. It's a great workspace. We have lots of room, and we have a lot of family here often, and we can work together. Without getting in each other's way too much, which is nice. And I do love the way the lighting is. It's really a great workspace, and it's worked out well. We're very happy with it.
One of the things we do for a living is catering, and so we use this space a lot for that, and it's been a great space. As she said, the lighting is wonderful. You got the nice view outside. You've got just plenty of room to work, and it's just a fantastic space. It's a fantastic space to work with. And then we have the dining room here, and we have the fireplace with the dining room. This table, we had this made. It stretches out another 3 feet longer. This is the short version of this table right now, and when it's at its length, maximum length, it's 16 feet long. I wanted it wide enough so that you could sit everybody around the table. And you know how it is sometimes where you got room for everybody around the table, but you don't have room for any food on the table. Well, this is wide enough so that you can have all the food you want on the table. And we really wanted this to be a gathering space. We wanted this to be kind of a fellowship area. We wanted to have a fire in this fireplace, which we do all the time, and ditto on the other side, and to be able to sit by the fire with your back to the fireplace. You feel that warmth come off. The ambiance, the atmosphere, the warm lights, and the fireplace, and people just enjoying themselves, eating food and munching around the table, and good conversation that occurs. It happens way more than I ever thought that it would when we first started this space. If I had one complaint, the only thing that I would do different now, I have two things from a design standpoint that I would have done differently, and one of them is in here, and that is that I would have pushed that wall out another 2 or 3 feet, and I wouldn't have worried about the exterior space right there, and I would have put a bigger table in here. Because this table is big enough generally, but if we have extra people over, if we get above 22, 23 people, then we have to start sitting them in a little different place, a few different places.
This was another one of those size disputes that we had.
Yes.
But the compromise was we do have a little breakfast nook, because I thought it would be ridiculous, like for the two of us having a meal here at this big table. So we do have a more intimate eating
Right.
place.
Yeah, I took a lot of grief over this table as well as the door. This is the other thing that I took a lot of grief over because of the size of it. And now nobody's complaining about that now because it fits this idea of generations gathering together. And the ease with which you can do that with a table this size in this room with the kitchen right there, it's just wonderful.
We have 14 people on the property close, so we do have our Taco Tuesdays and fill up this table space pretty much every week.
Yeah. Again, we have the kitchen and dining room here, and as we go this way, we get down into the family room area. There's a large bathroom down there, there's a laundry room, and then it eventually makes its way to the garage. We're gonna go upstairs now, so why don't you follow us up there and we'll kind of show you around. So here we are upstairs in kind of a sitting room area upstairs, I guess. We have a couple of kids' rooms back behind us or in front of us as we're standing here. We have the entryway right here and Tilly's sewing room right over here, which is another one of her favorite spaces. She's an expert seamstress, and she's sewing projects all the time, and people come and ask her to do a lot of different things from a sewing standpoint for her. So that's a very important space for her. I love this space because you've still got the massive timber frames. You're so close to them, right? You can really appreciate the joinery and the look of the timber frames themselves. When you're downstairs, you look up and you see them, but as you get close to them, you realize the scope of them and how awesome they are. This is one of my favorite spots in the house right here as I come out in the morning and walk down and see all of this beauty that we have here.
The morning light coming in too.
Yeah,
is nice.
yeah.
My sewing area is really a great space. I love having the opening there. That was kind of an afterthought, I think, just so that we were taking advantage of the high ceiling there. But it's a great workspace. I sit there at that table, and it's really nice with the opening there. I can see out this window. I can hear if someone comes in the door. It's a wonderful workspace.
And then down here, we have the master bedroom as we go this way. So here we are in the master bedroom, and you know what? We spend a lot of time in here, right? Because you sleep at night. And in the original design, we didn't have timber frames necessarily in this room. And in talking it over with Bert, we decided that we needed to add timber frames here. It's nice in the hybrid construction process that you can kind of add features where you need to without an extreme amount of cost. And so that's what we did here. It is so enjoyable to lay in bed at night. It's just not quite dark out, or to wake up in the morning and the first thing you see as you're laying on your back are the timber frames. It just is soothing. I don't know if I can describe it any better than that, but to lay in bed, to look up at the timber frames, it is relaxing, it is soothing, it's comforting, all of that kind of stuff, just to see them there. And I thought that this was a nice add-on to the process. We're up here so much that we didn't want to be without our timber frames that we have everywhere else in the house.
It's true, laying in bed at night, seeing them. We haven't figured out window coverings yet, so there's plenty of light to enjoy the beams even at night. We also have a window seat over here, which I really love, and our fireplace, it's a gas fireplace, but with some of the beam work around it too. So it's a very cozy, warm, inviting place.
The one thing that we found was there was enough leftover stuff, and so to take those leftovers and use them, whether it was downstairs on the fireplaces, the main fireplaces, or up here on this fireplace, to go ahead and just cut those down a little bit and make them fit, and it really worked out great for us. We're done pretty much with the inside of the house. We're going to go ahead and head out to the porch areas, and which I've said I've had a lot of favorite places here, right? But nothing beats the covered porch area with the timber frames and the fireplace and all of that kind of stuff. So we're going to go outside and take a look at all that now. So here we are in our outdoor porch area, and it's a wraparound porch, which was really important to us in the total scheme of things out here. We wanted a very large outdoor covered space that we could entertain a lot of people in, including our own family. It has an outdoor fireplace, it has an outdoor pizza oven, and it's got, as you'll be able to see, it's got plenty of room for seating, plenty of room for people to sit around and eat and just fellowship together. And I especially like the timber frame, the massive amount of timber frame components that we have here. You got 14-inch posts here. As Bert mentioned earlier, when we went down to visit Aero Timber Frame, they actually had the guts to let me go ahead and chisel out this joint right here on this timber frame. I'm pretty sure that after I finished, they subbed it out for another one. But anyway, but it was extremely enjoyable to go down there and get hands-on. And I would really recommend anybody who's interested in going through this process. It was important for me to have a connection between myself and the timber frame components that were being constructed. And so I felt that it was very important, whether they liked it or not, it was very important for us to go down during the cutting process and to see that happen. And we spent a whole day down there. They were gracious with their time. Josh followed us around and answered any questions that we had. The kids loved it. So we had a great connection to the timber frame components.
They're like his babies.
They are my babies.
You won't let me put any hooks to hang anything? No.
No, they are my babies. Anyway, so we have a great time out here. This fireplace is called a Rumford fireplace, and if you're not familiar with that, I would highly recommend that. It puts out a tremendous amount of heat. Even in the coldest of winter days, we can sit around out here, build a nice big fire in that fireplace, and be plenty warm enough. It's just a wonderful space in the evenings, especially on hot summer days in the evenings, and on cool winter evenings, with that fireplace there and the warmth that it provides.
This whole space was another great design idea, because one of our conflicting views about the house was that the front was the back faced the driveway, the entry, and I wanted it to have a welcoming feel, and it seemed strange to me that you would drive up to the back of the house. Arrow Timber Frame in their design ideas came up with this angled porch area and the fireplace, so that the whole chimney it's really beautiful, and I get to put my wreath on there at Christmas, and it is very welcoming.
In terms of the whole process of designing and deciding what's important to you and all that, I remember when Bert and I and Rob first met out here, we had a laundry list a mile long. We'd thought about it for a long time. We had specific ideas. We were trying to communicate that all to them. And as we went through the design process, especially, I was amazed. The first rendition that we got back, I thought, how is this possible? They just checked. I thought that there was no way they were going to be able to check all the boxes that they did, and yet they were able to do it, even when it appeared to me that some of the boxes were conflicting one with another. They got so close on the first rendition. There were very few changes after that were made. There were a few, but very minor in nature. And so I can't stress how important it is to be thoughtful about what you really want. Be sure and not be afraid to communicate that to the team, and have faith in them that they're going to be able to give you something that you'll be very, very happy with. So here we are looking at the outside covered porch area of the house. Again, our favorite area. In looking at the house, you can see we have 3 different kinds of siding. We have rockwork, we have 2 different kinds of siding. We have vertical board and batten siding, and we have a horizontal cedar grooved siding. We like the combination. As you can see on the board and batten, there are varying widths between the bats, and we wanted that because we have some fairly large spaces, and we just didn't want that all to be the same all the way across. There's actually a pattern to it. We are really happy with the way that looked. The trim work, we're very happy with that. The color choices that we've made, it took a long time. Some of those thousands of choices, a good number of those were spent on both siding color, siding type, size of siding, where to put rock, where not to put it, all of that kind of stuff. As much as I talked earlier about being at peace and contented with the whole process, if there was a point in time where I lost some sleep, and I will say my pride came into play here, was that I didn't want to get something up here on the side of the house that everybody was going to make fun of later on because it looked so bad, right? Because that was primarily my baby.
Well, in the pictures of the plan and all, it was cedar shake instead of siding, and so that made it hard to visualize something different, and we wanted to mix it up, and he did a good job on that. That was beyond me.
There was some anxiety for me associated with that. We're very happy with the outcome, and all I can say about that is take your time. Take your time with it. Look at a lot of examples of other things that you like. Try and bring those in. We painted up put together a lot of boards that were big that we could kind of put combo things on those boards to check them out. So just take your time, enjoy it, and trust. That's all I can say with that. But those were some of the most serious decisions that we had to make that were potentially humiliating if we didn't make the right choices. So in the porch area, we have nanowalls back there, and I'll tell you, those were one of the best decisions that we made. I would highly recommend them. You feel like you're spending a lot of money on a lot of different things, but that's money well spent. And when you compare it to other window types, that are large, you're really not spending much more money. And the ability to on nice days with big crowds of people, which we have frequently, we have church functions out here, and we might get 100, 150 people out here, to be able to open up those walls to kind of let people move in and out of all of those spaces easily. It's wonderful for them. It's a great way to entertain, and it just makes everybody comfortable.
Really maximize your outdoor living space by combining it that way.
The way it feels now for us, in terms of being finished with the project, more or less finished with the project, we have a community property out here. We always have stuff going on, but with this house, it is so stress-free to just come home at the end of the day to this, to come home to family, to come home to grandkids running around.
We have 6 grandkids really close, and any one of them may show up at the door at any time, and I love it.
But just to come home and relax, and you got all of these interior spaces that are all different depending on what you want to do. It's a joyful, peaceful experience to come up that driveway and see the house here and know that you're home. It's great.
So there you have it. You have the experiences from Jim and Tilly's mouth themselves. I'm sure you've got a lot. You've seen a lot, you've had ideas, and you might even be wondering what the second thing Jim would have changed. He just mentioned one. So if you'd like to take a guess at that, put it down in the comments, and maybe we'll have a big reveal party later. A shout out I'd like to give to a few people here. One is Rob Haney, architect we had on board helping us out. He did a great job working as part of the team, depicting the vision, along with us with the timbers, and of course it was a team effort. Speaking of team, the rest of the Aero team, my part in it is relatively small. There's a lot of moving pieces. There's that, but the biggest shout out goes to Jim and Tilly. They opened up their house, they shared their experience, and I'm sure you've got a lot out of that. But the biggest thing they did is they were responsible visionaries. A lot of decisions, so mimic what they're doing. That's your baby as a visionary. What did Jim say? He said, hire people you trust and trust who you hire. Gold right there. So leave a comment, we'll move forward together. See you on the next one.